What's up, guys? And we're back. We're back with another video when it comes to raid, and we've got a team for you. 2 million damage. I'm not talking about multiple runs. I'm talking about one run, 2 million damage. This is the team you need to go after. But before we jump into that, make sure, like, subscribe, just help the channel out. And if you like to watch this type of stuff live, we do it over on Twitch. So check out the Twitch. Links are all in the description. And let's jump into it. So we're going to be focusing on one of the main teams you need to focus on when it comes to Siege of Olympus. And we're going to be breaking down all the different variations of it, all the way from free to play to, the 2 million damage run. So before we jump in, I want to give a little bit of backstory on this team. Back in early October, Guest reached out to me and said, hey, I have an idea for the raid, and I'm curious if you could help me figure out how to do it. He showed me Demona. And Demona does this ability where if you have a lot of continuous damage, you can pop them all at one time and do a lot of damage. And this led to one of our first variations on this team, well before Maleficent actually came into the game. So we were able to start to use Demona plus Jack and really stack up all these continuous damages with the Fear mechanic and Sally. And these runs went really well. This again was in T4. We weren't quite in Heroic, so using two different Sorcerer's Chosens was not an issue. And we started to see 500k, 600k runs. And keep in mind, at that time, the only other teams that were doing that much damage were things like Slapzone and Moana, or Hades and the Villains team. And so as we started to talk and go through, we started to realize that it wasn't Demona that really needed to be on this team. It was Ian. Ian was the key to really making this team go big. And by us going back and forth and really experimenting with different characters and mechanics, we came upon the Ian team. And after we had our first million damage run, literally, we had some videos going out. Big shout out to Cozy for putting out that Ian video. And so I kind of decided, maybe I'll wait. I don't necessarily need to put out a video. Cozy had already done one on Ian. But then it happened. We got that 2 million damage run. And that's why I've decided to put this video together to really showcase how you get those big numbers. So before we jump into the team, little disclaimer here. One, Blue Ninjas, if you're listening, this team does not need to be nerfed. It does not need to be touched. This run takes a lot to make happen. And to be honest, 2 million damage, it's not that big of a deal when the Titans have 40 million health. So this isn't like all the other teams. It's not like the Sven team. It's not like the Calhoun stuff. It's not like the Jafar stuff. This is a fair run. So make sure we leave it alone. And for all you guys that are about to farm this team and go after this team, keep in mind, it's going to take a lot to farm. So be patient. And always, Blue can do whatever they want. So just be aware, they could change a little. So with every raid team, you're going to need two things. The two most important things of the raid team is your finisher and your Sorcerer's Chosen. So with this particular team, we're going to look at our finisher first. The finisher of this team is none other than Ian. Ian is insane when it comes to the raids. He needs a lot to build around him, but once you get that built up, Ian can do some serious damage. The ability that we're looking at is Voltar Thundasir. It does increased damage per stack of harmful effect. And this stack gets up to be insane damage once you have enough of that on the Titan. One thing to keep in mind, though, is once the Titans become empowered, all of that goes away. They cleanse themselves and you can't stick anything afterwards. So all of this buildup has to happen while you're being very aware of when you are going to empower the Titan. Another one of his abilities that's key is the Magnora Gantuan. And that is going to help you extend the harmful effects so that they stick a little bit longer. And again, the more harmful effects, so even with those extensions, the more damage you're going to do. So between those two skills, you're going to be able to do anywhere from 500,000 up to 1.5 million and even above in some cases. So the next question is, which Summoner's Chosen do we need to focus on? There's 9 total that you can put on teams, but really it's going to depend on which Titan that you're going to go against. The important thing to point out when it comes to any of these raids, which we'll be talking about in each of these teams, is every team really wants specific Sorcerer's Chosens with them based on the Titan. And you need to really understand, if you're in Heroic, you want to get as many attacks in as possible. If you're in T4 or below, you only get 5 attacks. So there is potential, if you have more than 5 summoners chosen, you can put 2 on one particular team. But you just have to decide what makes the most sense on your teams. The other key thing about raids is it's not about one team doing damage. Back on the Ursula raids, just like the other videos, we were able to solo most of the raid, if not all of the raid, with one team. That's not possible here with the Titans. There is no one team that can solo an entire Titan. So it's all about getting the most amount of damage out of your characters and out of your attempts as possible. So even though this is a very large damage dealing team, you do still need to make sure your other teams can still do damage. So with that, this team, we're going to focus on Sally first. When it comes to Sally, she's got a couple abilities that are pretty nice. Her basic is really what we're going to be focusing on with Ian. But keep in mind, she has another one that can sleep. So if you're going against things like the Ice Titan or the Tornado Titan, she can take out the little tornadoes or the ice spires with that ability. Her other ability can actually inflict blind. And blind is very important when it comes to these raids. You can pretty much negate an entire attack from a Titan just for making them blind. But again, what we're looking at is her basic, because her basic gets continuous damage on the target. And in raids, it's going to do 2 additional continuous damages. So with Ian, it's all about having all of those harmful effects. And in this case, Sally's going to do 3 on every one of her attacks. We talked about a second ago that if you're not in heroics and you maybe have a couple extra summoners chosens that you farmed, another place that you can use Sally is adding Jack, because Jack can make sure that fear goes on the Titan. And with Sally's basic, if fear is there, she's going to get another attack. So now we're stacking these continuous damages a lot more. So when we get into free-to-play teams and things like that, this is a possible way of going when you are outside of heroic. At this point, we need to look at the rest of the team around them. And as you can see, I have a couple different characters in here that work as additional characters. Now, keep in mind, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're optimizing more than just this one team. So you may need to move a couple of these characters around and decide what other 3 characters make the most sense based on your roster. In this particular example, for the 2 million damage, we're going to focus in on Maleficent. And yes, I get it. Maleficent is one of those characters that not many people have. She needs a lot of characters to unlock and farm, and it may take you a little while to get her. But I want you to know, she is one of the characters that you really need in order to do the 2 million damage. If you're looking to do the 600,000, the 700,000 runs, you don't need her. You can just rely on Sally and stack up those continuous damages. But to really get these big runs, Maleficent is really going to be needed. This is the same thing as when we were in the Ursula raid and Gadget was one of those keys to being able to solo the entire raid. Maleficent is one of those keys in order to get all of that damage. And that's because of her basic. So each time Maleficent uses her basic, she's going to be adding continuous damage. And the thing is, she also has a chance to extend those other continuous damages. So with that, you're going to be able to stack up a lot just off of that basic. Another important ability is the Forest of Thorns. It's going to be able to extend the harmful effects just like Ian was doing before, but also be able to add slow. And this is going to be one of the keys when we watch the video of the 2 million damage run. So each time you have your special, you want to extend those harmful effects. You want to do your basic. And with all of those stacks going on, between her and Sally, there's going to be a lot of continuous damage on the Titan. So looking back at our list, the next character I want to look at is Wendy. Wendy is another integral part of this team if you want to be hitting those massive damage runs. So Wendy has 2 abilities here that are outstanding when it comes to raids. The first one is going to be that I saved your shadow for you. So this particular ability will create a shadow, and what you want to do is you want to shadow Maleficent. That way, her basic on the shadow can also add continuous damage. Next, the thing Wendy can do is her basic. And her basic is going to also call one of those shadows. So again, getting extra hits from Maleficent on the Titan, adding more continuous damage. So it's all about stacking those harmful effects. The other ability that you can use is her second special. And what you can do is use that on Ian before he does his damage, and it's going to give him attack up, which is going to be critical to hitting the massive damage. So lastly for this team, I want to look at Barley, because Ian and Barley are always a great pair together. So Barley's going to have a lot of skills that really help you out. Not only is he going to have Guinevere, which can reduce magic. You may not use it as much, but it can reduce magic on a Titan, setting them back one turn from doing their big attacks. You're also going to have the book. The book is going to be another piece where we can add crit power up and guaranteed crit to Ian when he does his big attack. So this is one of those skills that are going to increase your damage significantly by having him on the team. Lastly is his basic. And his basic has a chance of calling multiple characters. And as long as placement is correct, you can actually call Sally and Maleficent. Again, another attack that someone can do a basic, adding continuous damage, and in this case, a lot of continuous damage. So with that, let's get into the 2 million damage run. We'll talk through it. And then after that, we're going to look at the free-to-play version. I know that this team seems a little difficult to get, but you will get it over time. So we're going to be breaking down this run little by little and pointing out a few of the key moments in order to hit this 2 million damage. I also want to give a big shout out to Simba for recording this because this is his run for 2 million damage. We've been experimenting with these teams for months now within Wonderful Worlds of Disney, and between all these guys, they've been throwing up some serious numbers. So we've got the Ice Titan that we were looking at this time. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with Thorns. And Thorns is one of the biggest moves you want to do at the beginning because it has a chance of inflicting slow. So we can see up here in the corner, we have slow, and that is going to be really key in order to give you enough times to set up before the Titan takes his first turn. So as we go through, we're throwing out the book, and the book is thrown onto Maleficent specifically to give magic back. That way we can have Thorns available a little bit later as well. So we're using Wendy to shadow Maleficent, again adding in that continuous damage, and Ian's basic. So we're going to be doing a lot of basics here between Ian and Sally and Maleficent just to stack up all of those harmful effects. We're going to use Thorns to continue to extend them. You can see they just went from 2 to 4. And then we're going to continue to do those basics all around the board. So the Titan's going to get a couple hits in. And again, we're going to cross our fingers that the Titan doesn't hit Ian or someone that's important, because damage really isn't a thing when it comes to the other characters. It's all about these harmful effects. We can see we're using Barley to get the multiple calls. We're using Wendy's basic to get that Shadow Maleficent to attack, and a lot of damage all around. So as we get closer, we are monitoring how much damage we're doing because we do not want to empower the Titan. These runs take a lot of practice before you understand exactly when you need to go off and get the most amount of damage. So at this point, we're still doing our basic. We're still stacking everything up, getting ready to release the big damage. So you can see there, we know we're starting to get it set up. So we went ahead and used Ian's second magic ability there to extend everything, making sure that we're getting prepared for the next time Ian comes back around, we're going to do our big attack. So we're going to use our Thorns there again. We're going to go ahead and use the book over on Ian. And in this case, we got a little lucky. We got our crit and our crit power up right there on Ian. Sally's going to do her thing. And now we're going to do the first time just a basic attack, because we want to make sure that we have our attack up, which we're going to get from Wendy. So like I mentioned there, we have 2 turns of our damage. We're going to throw over the second ability over on Ian, which is going to give him his attack up. He's also going to get one more attack in real quick. And now we're going to go back through one more time, just making sure that we've stacked as much as we can on this Titan for the harmful effects. Okay. And again, at this point, we're getting a little close to potentially doing too much damage, so we have to be aware. And this is where we've gone back to Ian. We have our attack up. We also have our crit chance up. And we're going to go ahead and use our big attack here. Now, the thing is, the crit is not as important because the way the Titans work right now is if they have a harmful effect, your character always crits. So crit is not actually that big of a difference. It's the crit power up, which we have, and the attack up that's going to do the big damage. So also when we do this attack, Simba takes a quick picture of the damage. So you'll see that happen. But you're going to see some massive damage. And once this happens, the Titan's going to go empowered. He's going to clear all of the debuffs. And at that point, you just try to get in as much extra damage as you can. as the Titan constantly wipes out your team. So right there, big damage. It was like 1.8 damage really quickly happening up on that screen. We're going to continue to make shadows of Maleficent. Again, one of your biggest damage dealers on the team. And then we're just going to kind of close out the match as quick as we can, just doing as much damage as we can. Because once this Titan gets a turn, yeah, it's over. Now, there's a couple things we could have done here. Potentially, we could have used the dragon or something like that just to get some extra damage before the team gets wiped out. But I believe Simba does it after this. Got a little lucky that Maleficent didn't die right there completely. And with that, you can see the big damage here. 2 million damage in one run in Heroic with the team. So this is also possible on other Titans. This is also possible with different teams. I just wanted to showcase Simba's run right here doing 2 million damage in the raid. So let's look at some screenshots of the different Titans, some other variations on the team, and then we'll break down that free-to-play team. So as you can see, we've got another variation of this team against Lava, doing over 1 million damage. We've got the Rock Titan also going down with another 1 million damage run, but this time, Jack is that Summoner's Chosen. We've seen Rock, we've seen Lava, we've seen Ice. Can we do it on Tornado? Well, yes, you can do it with Tornado, 1 million damage here. Big shout out again to Doug from Disneyland Forever, doing 1 million damage against the Tornado Titan. So I mentioned a free-to-play team, and this is one of the free-to-play teams that I was introduced to from in-game. So Gaza T has a video, and I'm going to link it down in the description below, that was with this team and how to use this team. But essentially, at a high level, you're going to be using Chunk to actually put fear on the Titan. And once the Titan has fear, Sally is going to do multiple attacks, giving you more continuous damage. So you can see here with this team, it's 100% free to play. You can farm all these characters. And in some cases, you're going to need these characters in other areas anyway, like Chunk with the Ascension battles. So I encourage you to check out that video, show Gaza some love over on his YouTube, because he's been coming up with some really cool raid material as well. So again, I want to give a big shout out to Wonderful Worlds of Disney and the guys over there that have been helping me test with Simba, Bearded Dad Bod, Disney Goddess, Saren, Scarlet Rose. All you guys have been awesome just trying to come up with these teams and really do a lot of testing with all different characters for us to stumble upon some of these great teams for the raid and helping us get through there. So if you like this video, again, I'd appreciate it. Please leave a comment down below on what variation of the team you plan to run. And if you found any other good teams we need to look at. Stay tuned, because in the next few days, I'm going to be releasing a video on each of the teams that I feel are the important ones everybody should be farming for the raid. And if you want to support this channel in a different way, just beyond liking and subscribing, make sure to check out the Patreon. We do roster reviews, we hang out, we talk all to the Patreons over there. And again, thank you so much for helping this channel grow. And until next time, y'all take it easy.